both got Toyota coronavirus.
Apologies, everyone.
Even larger, this is how authentic it gets.
This is it.
I reached out to you ages ago just to put a bit of context around how our little started.
Yes.
I think I carried on a little bit about a red belly.
No, that's okay. It's passionate, mate. I love the passion.
You probably rightly so carried on back, and I just went, oh, we got fucking angry a bit. And then we got over ourselves.
And then had a chat.
Yeah, we got going to bring us to our first topic. You spoke to me then about quality control.
Yes.
Bits and pieces, which, you know, since being in the hobby a long time, but looking at different, pulling things apart, different vehicles, different makes, yeah, certainly opened my eyes up. So then you had some controversy through Anzac Day Car, but we'll sort that out in a minute. But you were pretty open for me to come and have a chat and ask some shitty questions.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate.
For sure.
So, for clarity's sake, this is very much not scripted.
No.
I sent Jesse a list of pretty shitty questions, but respectful.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
On, what was it, Thursday or Friday?
Yes.
And then I went and done my New South Wales trip.
I think it was Thursday.
We both called the loogie, and here we are. Nothing stops us.
That's it, mate. Look, there's no rest for the wicked, is there?
But, mate, appreciate you being, again, unscripted, uncut, unfiltered. You've got some big fans, and I think they'll appreciate it. So let's hit it off with that quality control issue that you spoke to me about. It's very important to people.
100%. So one of the biggest issues that we've had with quality control, and vocal about this, obviously when I talk to people face to face, there's no point in gears like that, but one of the biggest issues that we've had is when we first started, obviously the demand was very, very low. And I mean, I'll just say that as much as it sucked in the first drop, but what we did in the very first run was only 3,500 pieces of each car. Yep. Now, after the initial drop and it exploded the way that it did, we've sort of gradually increased the quantities up and up and up. At our peak, we were hitting about 18,000 of each model. Yep. But the issue that I've had, like a big increase, right? But then the problem that we had was, and part of the reason I tried to pump the numbers so quickly, I was getting lots of feedback from the end consumer saying that there was a huge scale problem, that a lot of guys couldn't get access to the product. They couldn't find it anywhere to buy it at retail. Mm-hmm. So for me, I turned around and went, well, the only way to really fix that is to overproduce them. Yep. And I hate the idea of doing that because to me, that's what destroys the collectability of it. The whole point of it being collectible is that it's a reasonable number. One and
always a good
correct.
Chase idea, but yep. Mm-hmm.
Correct. And then obviously from the very beginning, we went sort of like a middle ground in the level of detail, right? So we didn't have the interiors in them. We did blacked out windows. We still maintained the metal chassis and the multi-piece wheels. Yep. But one of the biggest issues that we had back then was the rolling. Yeah, right. And seriously, man, this sounds so crazy, but I know to a lot of collectors it doesn't matter. But to me, I hate that. Yeah. I hate because I'm a very big pull everything out. I like to have them on display, and I'm a bit silly, man. When I play with them, I like to move them around, and I did that with my son a lot while he was growing up as well. So the biggest issue was the rolling. So we implemented 3 new QC processes for that, and then we had another drop of stock. Next stock drop comes. I got super excited. I wanted to roll it, and I put it down one of the old Hot Wheels tracks I had, and it's. And I absolutely lost it, right? So we're at that point, like we flew back over to China at that because I'm like, this is just, I understand we're doing more volume and all this, but it's just not on. We can't have this happening. Then they showed me the process of what they do. So they've created like a sand pad, and then what they do is once they mount the chassis in, the axles into the chassis, they like smooth them and then shift the wheel and smooth them and shift to try and get rid of any burr marks and things like that. Yep. It also adds a layer of QC where they can check to make sure that the tyres are fitted properly. Now, one of the biggest grievances I suppose I've ever had with this is that we put in lots of QC processes. I've watched them do it in the factory, and then I get messages from people online showing me proof that the QC wasn't there. And seriously, it's really disheartening. And I mean, especially like lots of people don't see what goes into the back end of this sort of stuff. Yeah. You know, it's not just come up with an idea, throw a dart at a board, and then you got product, right? That's just not how it works. Correct. and then the QC side of it, and where I've always been caught. So many people online, when they reach out to the page, my first thing is instantly, can you please reach out to the give us your contact information. We give you a reply paid, and we want that sent and get at our cost sent back to us. Now, the reason I've always had to do that is because, full transparency, I do get argued a bit back and forward from the factory saying there's no way it was shipped like that. There's no way it was shipped like that. And the only way I can prove it is physically either give them the product and ship them to them, which I have done before. Sometimes I've even taken it with me when I've gone over there, or I just send them dozens of photos. And I say, like, as an example, we had a Mother's Day car the other day, man, and it had no window in it. How do you assemble a car with no window in it and ship it? Especially with the QC processes. Like, and this is what I mean. If it was something that we hadn't put in the extra work, tried to pay attention to that and put stages in, and even after they've hired a few extra people to do the QC, and we're still having this issue. Like, it is incredibly infuriating. And even to a point, I've started pulling some of the numbers back down to explain to them, like, it's not just about pushing out product. It's never been about that. I want quality.
Have you always stuck with the same manufacturer?
We have worked with, since we very first started, 4 different factories. Now, the 2 of those 4 are still the main factories we use now. One of those 4 is very, very North China, and they do incredible work up there. And that's probably, they do, I would suggest, maybe 70% of what we produce. And then now we're using the other factory, which is sort of like a sibling to them, and they in Guangzhou, and they do about maybe 15 to 20%, and about that 10 to 15% balance to the 3rd factory.
Gotcha. To squash one quality control thing, like people say, they pull them apart at the wet. Like, I think you guys get them here and ship them out because the pressure's on.
Yep.
I'm not covering for it, but that's
no,
what
of course.
I would assume. I've done automotive stuff for a long time. I've seen it. A 10 pack of filters comes in, it goes straight out. No one's going. But obviously, it's a different game here because people get 2 boxes of no chasers and they're pulled apart.
Yeah.
So you're getting them from the manufacturer.
Yep.
You're literally getting people's picking tags and out they go.
Yep. That's it. So even when we do, so when they print the orders out, a big thing that we've done when we do our own dispatch is that the names get blocked out. So even when they're pulling them, it's part of the reason too that you guys would notice this if you put a single product office, where we put a tissue paper in and then bubble wrap over the top of the car. Now, the main reason for that tissue paper is to ensure no one can see if it's a chase.
Yeah.
So once they get bubble wrapped like that, they get put back into inners blindly. And then all that happens, the orders come down. No one can even see the name on the order. You just see the order number and all the information to dispatch. And then that's what we process off. So I've tried to do it like that because, and like we record this whole process too, guys. Like I'm happy to show the footage of it. It's no issues at all. But we've always done that because, like, I know it's hard for people, especially when they see the perceived value in these cars, right? So it's hard for them to not look at and go, well, why wouldn't he just pull them all out? But I can honestly say, I own the brand, I own the tooling, I do the purchase orders, I do everything. If I wanted more, I would just order them. You know what I mean? Like, not to be that person, but I'd just order them. There would be zero benefit to me spending time to go through all the boxes, to cut them all open and blindly search. And then the other side of that is, imagine how many boxes we'd have that would be all cut open and retaped every left, right and centre. It just doesn't make good business sense. And obviously it's a touchy topic, and I don't mean to sound like a douche in any way in saying it, but full transparency, man, I would make more money doing my job. Like, the amount of time it would take to do that sort of stuff, to then try and hide in the background and do it, and with no one catching you, like, I don't have the time to do that, man. Like, I physically couldn't do it.
And I often wonder that, like, Mr. Hot Wheels, Mr. Oz Wheels, Mr. whoever, M2, they're like, that was a $3 car, $10, $15 car, and they're getting $700 for it. Like, I could see where people would be like, oh, he's an Aussie, he's this, he's that. But I didn't consider, you just make your own.
That's what I mean, man. Like, and then like I am pretty vocal with this, even though maybe I shouldn't be. But chroming the bodies the way that we do, and the amount of damages that we end up with QC issues and things like that, I lose money on making them. When we make supers, we lose money on putting them in. Even if I sold them at retail price, I still wouldn't get my money back. But the idea was, and I always circle this back around to my own personal experience, I was a massive, massive Pokemon nut. I loved it growing up. And 8 years old, I went into Coles. I was well behaved for mum, come out, and she said, all right, you can buy one and I'll buy you one as well. Oh, great. Got the two, opened them up. I got two first edition Charizards, one in each. I still have cards today. They're in a binder. They've never ever been played with. They've never been touched. They were put straight in a binder, and I've kept them they sit in my safe at home. They're for my children, because that's what I want them to be able to relive that in a way that some of those cards these days worth so much money. How are my kids going to ever experience that?
100%. Especially with the Logan boys, no, Paul boys.
Yeah. The Ball brothers.
I've got Trudy to bring up and box at Anzac Day and Mother's Day, so you can show them how we pack them.
Oh, yeah.
Can't see the tissue paper. You can grab them if you want.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can grab them. Hey, I can show you guys.
This is real stuff, bro.
Like I've always sort of tried to say, like, this is what we do. So, like, it doesn't matter what angle you try to look at them with, you can't pick that it's a chase car. This one was done a little bit shonkily, but even the same again, right, when you look through there. And full disclosure, all my staff have in their employment contracts, and you can ask Adrian this, it's written in my contracts, if they ever get caught with chase cars, if I ever find anyone doing it, it's instant dismissal. Like there's no warning period, there's no anything. It's written in the contracts. They're instantly sacked. It's done. Because in my eyes, like, the only value in this stuff is the value to the secondhand market and the authenticity in the numbers. The second that you mix with that, the second you funnel with that, you lose all credibility. And at that point, like, and this is what I try to sort of explain to people, if you look at the numbers that we're doing, there's zero benefit to me doing anything with chase cars ever. I lose money, I destroy the brand, and on top of everything, and like this is the biggest key factor for me, but on top of everything, it's my morality. Like how do I openly admit this is what I'm doing and then turn around and do the opposite? That takes a different kind of person, not me.
When we did have a conversation about this before, like, your main goal is repeat customer.
Correct.
And you've lost me a little bit here and there, but because I listen to idiots, you know, like people think they know everything, and that's why when I reached out to you, I was like, come on, let's squash some shit.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, I'm not fucking buying this shit. Like, it's bloody, you know, it can't pull me back, and you'll see lots of me saying, you know, he's got it because it's, Oswald's don't have to be Jesse, it doesn't have to be anyone, it's just that there's a memory attached to most cars by most Aussie men or women. It's as simple as that. And that's what kept me coming back. But I was like, oh man, they're going to start holding back chases because I was buying some boxes and bits and pieces. But no, that's good clarity, brother. That's good clarity. Very random next question.
Shoot.
Do you have ADHD?
So honestly, I'm not 100% sure. And in the last 6 months, I've been going through the process of adult testing. And part of that comes from every time I go to my pediatric appointment with my daughter, her doctor would say to me,
Starts
like,
focusing on dad.
all the time. And he's like, you been tested, man? He's like, you been tested? And I'm like, nah. And he's like, dude, it's you. Like, he's like, it's 100% you. He's like, everything you do. He's like, what's in your daughter, that's you. And then I sort of thought about it, and I was like, well, maybe he's right. You know, maybe that's why I'm a little bit different, you know. But like I've always said, and like I teach my daughter too, like there's nothing wrong with being different. You know, it's obviously within reason, of course. But yeah, honestly, I can't give a 100% answer for that, but they're going through the testing process so far, and from what I've been told, they're pretty confident.
You do strike me as someone that never has your creative itch scratched.
Never.
There's always something going on. What's been the limitations other than legal, obviously?
Honestly, my time
Time.
constraints. And the biggest problem with it is I never wanted Oswheels to become corporate. And every time I've hired, I've tried to hire guys that I trust and unconventional people. So, like, as an example, my 2IC runs as my operations manager, Adrian. He's an ex-painter by trade. Like, he's just a massive fan of collecting, and he loves and understands it and has done it his whole life. So for me, it's like, well, that's what I want the brand to be. I want the brand that when we go to shows, people are like, I'm not just being sold something by someone. They're all dudes that love the same stuff as me.
You don't want a spreadsheet guru.
No.
Maybe later. But
Maybe later.
Got some passion in there.
No.
And we will get to a passion question, but
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, I definitely think you've got more in you for the brand, 100%. And how do you feel when people are like, do a different brand? Are you constrained to Holman Ford and certain models?
See, it's a hard one, right? I've always been very big on licensing. And this is where you kind of get caught when you manufacture models and people don't understand the side of this. When you get a license, it's never just, okay, you've got to pay X amount of percentage on each model as it goes, right? There's something they release called an MOG. An MOG is a minimum guarantee over the period of the contract of what you're going to earn them. Depending on the licensor, they want that up front. So depending on what it is and things like that. And yeah, man. And then the other side of it also is trying to build a relationship, because they don't just hand licenses out. And I've seen lots of stuff hurled shade at me online about, oh, it was easy for me because of my old man and all this sort of stuff. But I can tell you the truth, man. Go and have a look at a DDA product. Until I started Oswheels and until I pushed the whole point of doing licensed product, there was no licensing done by DDA. I built the relationships with all the licensors. I approached every single one of them, and I even negotiated the contract terms with all of them. There was no input from DDA other than they were distroing the product.
So then DDA's input was some guidance in how to do some bits and pieces. Obviously not licensing.
No, well, to be honest with you, it was really the distribution network. So even with DDA, DDA was always a massive big distributor.
Can I just say, you're not denying that there's been any assistance / help learning from it?
Honestly, definitely not. No. Well, the way I sort of equate it to people is, imagine you've gone and gotten a job as a chippy, right? You work for one of the best builders in the state. You work for him for a period of time. You might even come up with some cool new ideas for how he can evolve his business and things like that. And then you get to a point where you go, I think I've hit my ceiling with having somebody else having to have the final say. I would like to go out on my own and do something where all the responsibilities on me, all the liabilities on me, but I get to make all the decisions. So I get to pick all the cars we make. I get to pick the marketing angles. I get to pick the real cars we build, the shows we attend, and all that sort of stuff, and do it in a way that I mean, I call it the Oswheels way, right? And the Oswheels way is being about the end consumer and being able to activate, put on a show for them. Every event that we go to, genuinely, we don't really make money. The whole goal of every event is to break even. So the goal is to put on the biggest activation we possibly can and not lose money, which sometimes we still do. And then sometimes we also do make money, which is a huge win. But it's always been perceived as the Oswheels way is to engage the crowd, is to give the community something that they look forward to and appreciate and will group together and assimilate over, right?
I might jump ahead on that question.
Yeah, sure.
Because your fans, we'll call them fans, right?
Yeah.
Your core network that we all know, how do you feel you're giving back to them? And you probably answered part of that just then, but something that you touched on when I spoke to you in, just a little chat about this was some of the stuff you got knocked back. I think that's a giving back type thing to your core fans.
Yep.
You want to elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah. So obviously, as you can imagine, once we start getting a little bit of traction and people notice that you have a following, you start getting lots of sponsorship opportunities.
Yep.
And we've had a lot, right? And the sad reality is they're from brands and from places that don't actually support Australian car culture. If anything, they're the opposite. They're the people trying to kill and crush the Australian car culture. And, one of them, I was offered a very multiple $100,000 electric vehicle. And the whole point was, we want you to do content, we want to talk about it, then make models and all this. And I looked at it And I was like, look, I'll test drive one for a couple of days, but I'll be honest with you, man, it's not, it's not Aussie car culture. Like it does, those cars, they don't have a soul, man. Like they honestly, it sounds so silly to say it that way, but to someone like me, when I sit in these cars and the attachment that I get to them, which then translates to the models, is when I can hear the noise, the frequency, the vibration through the car. It's harmonics. Like that to me is a symphony. It's the best music you could ever hear in your life. Jump in an EV, man. No soul, no symphony. It's cool. It goes real quick. Like it accelerates smack hard, but there's no soul. It doesn't have that extra bit. And so straight away, I'm like, well, I won't do that. I won't. We only work with brands. So as an example, Kicker. People are like, oh, why didn't you go to this company or this company? Well, when I was a kid, I bought lots of Kicker gear. I had Kicker gear in all my cars growing up. It's what I could afford. It's what I knew how to work on and tune and mess with a little bit. So why wouldn't I want to work with that brand? We could have gone to a bigger brand. We could have gone to someone that, if let's say they argue that they make a better product. But to me, it's about connecting with the community and being real. Yeah, right. Like you don't want to lie to people and push products on people they don't want. And I'm always the first to say to everyone, Kicker's the best mid-level stuff you can get. It's not crazy priced, you know, and all this. And that's, again, part of what we try to do. And then also in the tooling too, right? Lots of brands, and you can see this across every brand in the world, right? Not even just little brands, but they release a tool and then they, for lack of a better word, grape it to death, right? They flog it. Yeah, they kill it. And you know, I know even we've been accused of doing that as well a few times, and we've even when I've noticed that, we've then paid way more attention even to the drops to make sure we're sort of pulling things back here and there. It's part of the reason why we split into the red bellies and the FSD2, so that the red bellies we had something a bit cheaper to be able to offer originally to a younger target audience, and then have the collectibles for the proper collectors as well.
On that, M2 is a prime example. I don't mind mentioning it. I'm an opener.
Yeah,
and
yep.
I got some M2 stuff, and you know, you paid a lot more for that. I probably should have kept it in the card, but that's my personal opinion. They were terrible. You know, it was a cool combi type vehicle, been out for years. You think they would have that?
And it is hard, man. And honestly, talking from a lens of like, it has to, you get to a point in this game where you have to decide if it's about you making money or if it's about your passion and continuing the brand. And what you'll notice is that most brands in the world hit a point, and that point becomes where it becomes about money. And what ends up happening is they sell. And what happens to the brands afterwards can be a bit of a, you know, there's been a couple in Australia, obviously not to name, but then there's been quite a few in America as well that have done this. One of the biggest brands that my folks used to distro and have the exclusive distribution for had the same problem. Hit a point that it was never about the collectibles, it was never about the community, it was never about the consumer. It was about making money. And then once they couldn't make enough money, turn around and sell the company for parts. And I mean, I couldn't do that. You know, like I've always been asked, like, what's your end goal? What are you trying to accomplish? I don't even know what that looks like. And for me, it's because I've been trying to push about community. We're trying to bring people together. We're trying to make it in a time of where everyone's divided. Everyone's being told to hate each other, whether it's the colour of your skin, whether your religion, it's what you like, even your hobbies. You know, everyone hate each other, be toxic. What? Why? Well, we're all Aussies and we love the same thing. I've always had this weird, and I used to cop up myself at car shows, right? Because I kind of love my real cars, but also love my models. I'll be walking around the car shows and I'd just start getting absolutely fed by some bloke about how I'm a nerd and I'm this and I'm that and bah, 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 bah. And I turned around and I was like, which one of these is yours? And he pointed it out and I was like, yeah, I got one of them too, bro. It's just I can only afford one this big. Like, to me, the argument's always been the two communities are really one. The only difference is one's got a bigger budget to spend than another. Or more space even. Like sometimes it's not even a budget thing, it's just space. If you can't store multiple cars, or even you can't store one, I know what I'd do. I'd go and buy 50 models and put them on the wall and love them just as much.
Oh, 100%. That comes down to the models too.
Yes.
Having the space to do it. What you just mentioned there, I don't know how you're going to answer this one. Like, I just wrote why Kmart. Now, some say what you just said, that's almost like a sellout. You had your Repcos and your Autobarns. Now, I've since learned some things about those places touch on Kmart. Like, from a business point of view, no-brainer. But where was you going with that, with the thought of the community?
So, catch-22. I was getting lots of feedback through the main network that store owners, managers, employees were pulling the cars out. And so then I was like, well, what other channel can we go to that's got a bulk thing? Now, at the time, we were being approached by Super Cheap Auto. We were being approached by Kmart, Target, Big W, Woolworths as well. So the idea was, well, who do we partner with on this? I did actually look at this from a lens of who's going to not cause the most grief to the current network as well. So I thought if we went to Super Cheap, that's kind of a spit in the face of Repco and Autobarn when they've massively supported the brand.
Almost out of the fire.
Yep. And I was never doing that. So then it was, well, do we go to Woolworths? And then I thought back to my shopping experience days, and that is that Woolworths treats our style of product like it's almost, yeah, like, you know, you never pay full retail for a car in Woolworths, do you? Like, it's put there to be sold for nothing. Like, they basically sell it at their cost, and they get a little bit of cream back from the supplier or something like that, right? Not saying exactly how their arrangements are made, of course. But from that lens, then I looked at it and I went, okay, so if I go to them, they're going to dump it out at cost or put 10 cents maybe on the cost, and then that's going to destroy the whole network too. So then I started talking to the Kmart buyer. Now, I wasn't talking to just our division buyer. I was actually talking to the big boss of all the buyers, because since we started, the first 12 months, they were like on me every week. We want to run the product, we want to run it. I kept telling them no. And part of that was because we couldn't get the volume to be made with QC steps involved to hit the volume target. So I had to keep telling them no, because we just couldn't do it. And then we got to a point where when we started hitting the 18,000 number, I do not like going to an independent store and going, here's 15 cartons of stock. And then that guy sit there, a small store, and carry it for a long period. I don't like that. So what we've always tried to do with the stock is do an allocation basis. So we try to fan the stock out evenly across the entire network, all stores, so that not one person can get a monopoly on the stock, but it also means that there's less of a chance of getting someone who's going to go through all the boxes and pull chase cars out. Now, again, silly sort of thing to think about, and most CEOs, manufacturers don't. And where I get caught with a lot of this, and I do tell people this all the time, I get caught because a lot of the time I end up chasing my own tail, because I'm trying to do whatever in this situation I believe is going to be work best for the collector and the community. And Kmart specifically, I can tell you this, I got a phone call the other day. They were one of our biggest distributors in the last 12 months. And coming January, they are most likely going to have to stop running the brand. And I turned around and said, well, how? You've done all these numbers, you've done this, you've done that. They actually sent me a report back, and they had $360,000 at cost worth of Oswheels stolen from their stores. What do you do with that?
So they're going to try and run that on you, or just cut you off?
Tried the first option, didn't work, went to second option. And that's sad, because the reality of what we're doing, we'll try and do something cool. The Kmart, the point in moving into that was, Kmart was not about the collectors so much. It was about a mass market mum audience. The mums are the gatekeepers, man. My missus would never buy cars for my son unless she's in Kmart. And it's always because she's wandered around, she's probably spent $150 on random stuff, and then she's gone, oh, I'll grab a couple of cars for him, you know. Yes, that's what I mean. So that was the concept for going there. We thought, well, we're going to get the mums, which will get the credibility for the brand as well. And then, you know, also, how many, maybe not a huge amount, but how many collectors actually have super supportive women in their lives that regularly when they're at Kmart, they'll have a look through the Hot Wheels aisle for them and things like that. So I thought, what a great opportunity to open up another 400 stores for people to be able to chase hunt through. But the problem becomes then, you have the same issue with the Kmart stuff, and you see it online. And you get caught because lots of people spew and say that they're doing it, But then you hear other people go online and go, oh, you know, it's because I made maths with this guy, and I buy him lunch or I do that, so then he pulls them all out. And full transparency, they don't get the reaction from me they think they're going to when they say that, because I go off. I'm like, so you're the problem. Because you're encouraging that mentality. Now, if you stop buying from that shop, do you think old mate's going to stop pulling the chase cars out? No, he's going to look for the next person who will give him extra benefit, will buy him things, will be his buddy.
I might actually take this one myself.
Correct. Or that's, you're 100% correct, because then they start questioning, why are these guys like this over these cars? What's the value in them? And all of a sudden, then it creates a scalper market. My biggest argument with, and we've closed independent retailers over doing stuff like this, right? Like, just close their account, because you warn them once, you try to do the right thing, and then they don't care. So you just go, but what, it's hard because you can't just keep culling the entire network down. But I try to explain to these guys, this business is repeat customer. If you go into a store and you find a chase on the pegs, how often are you going to stop back at that store? Just for a look?
Daily.
I would do. And this is why I don't never understood. And even with the retailers, I'm like, guys, why do that? Like, oh, but you know, they're worth heaps of money. So isn't the repeat customer worth more money to you? Isn't the morality?
You're aware that 2, 3, 4 guys randomly got some stuff off a peg. Yeah, it opens it up. There's the odd shop that definitely do it.
Yes.
Some you think, oh, I don't know.
Yep.
And that's where I come back to the rep case. Again, me in the automotive industry, they're putting them aside. It's a shame, and I've never asked, but I've always said, oh, do you have any at the back?
Yep.
To look at, which I'm entitled to do.
100%.
But you know, when they go, oh, there's nothing for a while, then you hear of like someone's got them, like fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
And it's frustrating. And even for me, man, like, that's the worst part, because in my eyes, I'm trying to do everything I can to split them out as much as possible so they're not saturated all into one box or something like that, and then get them to as many people as humanely possible. And then everyone turns around, oh, well, not everyone, but I've seen a big portion of people online saying, well, you're creating the scalper market by doing it. And I sort of went, you're right on some levels, 100%. But then the opposite side of that, and this is sort of the end goal a little bit, or part of the end goal for the brand. They are starting to change the way that they classify collectibles in this country. They've changed the way they classify cars in this country and how they're structuring them as assets. Now, over the next 5 years, most people won't understand this, but you will actually, with proper valuations done and insurances in place, be able to use your collectibles as assets to borrow money against. Now, flick it the opposite way. Someone who maybe has worked real hard forever but isn't really capable of saving for a house deposit. Lots of these guys have big Oswheels collections and lots of cars. Now, if your whole collection gets valued at 50 or 60 grand, there's your house deposit. Now, that may not end up happening that way. They may not end up putting all of the rest of the policies in place to actually enact it all, but I watched all that stuff, man. And then I looked at it and I went, what an amazing way to help the community. Like, and it sounds silly as help the community, but if you can take something that you bought for $20 and then you can get it valued and then borrow $1,500 back against that. Not encouraging anyone to go into debt over these, by the way, mind you. Like, do your own research, be smart about what you do. Correct. But the idea is so that the value becomes, you don't have to sell them. And this has been the biggest problem in the collector market, right? Because you own a car and it's worth a fortune, unlimited money. But a true collector's never going to sell it, are they? Because you don't want to get rid of it unless you absolutely have to. And I'm like, well, if we can structure something that then as these rules change over the next 4 or 5 years,
That's a good idea.
they don't have to sell them. Use it as collateral, use it as an asset. And then, and it sounds silly, man, but imagine being able to turn around and say, oh, I was able to pull my house deposit to buy a home out of collectible cars that I was buying for 4 or 5 years.
That's the story. We've had to upgrade the house. Bubs come along.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And their faces are broken.
Yep.
And that could rein in some of that pricing hike. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes. Well, people are going to be less likely to sell them.
Yeah.
because they see the value and maintain the value, which it could either drive the price up or recorrect it. But the biggest problem, the only way to 100% squash it, and this is the issue, and I've tried to say this to so many people, don't pay the money. If you pay the money, you're letting them set the price. Because the sad reality of scalpers and the way they work is, and I've seen this across Pokemon, right, for 10 years, they're not dudes that can afford to sit on stuff for months and months and months or years at a time, right? Which means if they get something really rare, they're going to put it up a ridiculous price. If no one buys it, every month it's going to come down a little bit, a little bit, a little bit until they find that sweet spot. The only way to crush that market is to not pay it. Because it's literally the only thing, because supply and demand is always going to hyperinflate a second-hand market.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but you know what drives someone wants
Correct.
a super, and sometimes that wants to get it cheap and resell it. They want it because they're like, man, it's this time to buy it. There is a lot of confusion with that. There is a lot of like, it's not really FOMO because you know you'll probably end up with it. You're like, all right, I've seen one at 450. This one's 320. I'm going to get it.
Yes.
But then another year later, if you can wait, they're probably 150s all day.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I agree, and that's.
There is a percentage of the collectors that will get stuck on that.
Yeah.
I'm a raw collector, and that's like they're not. Thankfully, I'm not full supers. Thankfully, Mr. Bowl is, and he just took me out with a super.
Oi!
He's a good bloke.
Shout out, Warren.
But yeah, I've looked at them, and I have tried. I'm like, I dig that, but I'm just going to hang off, and most of the things do come down.
Yep.
But I get it when the guys are like, I just paid 400 for this raw, and I'm like, oh, bro. But when they're a bit limited numbers, but you are dead right. Don't pay it. I don't know what advice that me or you can give them. What is it just to wait? Is that as simple as that?
Man, seriously, I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And it sounds bad, and I know we spoke about this a little bit, but I can't, and I have racked my brain, man, like for countless hours, like more hours than I'd ever care to admit about this topic. But thank you, sir.
Yeah.
There's not there's no crystal clear answer to it.
Yeah.
And how to solve it. And then some people go, well, okay, produce more.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, well, I can do that. But then does it defeat the purpose?
Yeah. It does.
And I mean, again, I will revert back to, like, they do cost a lot to produce. So then it's like, well, how much bigger do I make the number? And then how much more of a hit do I take on the back end and all that? Because the whole idea of doing them, again, it sounds silly, but I look at these cars and I see the Holo Charizard. That's what I see. Every single one of these cars, that's what I see. And it just gives me this warm, fuzzy feeling like that's my childhood in a nutshell is in those cars, in that shiny one right there. Like, yeah.
So not pie in the sky type idea. Is there a scalpery prevention type model you're playing with that you might go, or is that still in the works?
So I've looked at a few different options for how to do it, but the problem is the only way to 100% get away from it is you can't see the car. But the problem is, how do you card them that you can't see the car? Because there's no way to attach them to a blister. And then I even played with the idea of doing a protector case and having it blacked out. But then I thought the same. You're looking at a black protector, like that's not desirable to buy. And this is where we get caught, is that the only way to completely get rid of it is for them to not be carded. They'd all have to be boxed. Correct. And then we're back into that. And full disclosure, man, I love the card art.
Yeah.
Like I've always been a fan of the Hot Wheels stuff. Like I like the way that I've always bought two of everything. I get myself in trouble.
That's one of the ones they're not. Don't.
Yeah. No, shoot.
They're not worth the most out of all your collection, but I kept them on the cards.
Yep.
And I've got. I just dig that card, but I get your point.
Well, see, even the same with that, right? Like, man, the amount of issues I had when I tried to launch that. You know how brands don't like skeletons?
Yeah, that's
They do not like that being perceived on their products, right? So I have, and more than I'd ever care to say, I've been obliterated, man, at different points by different licensing companies. And it's because they don't like how I portray the cars as Australian. But I try to explain to them, like, from my perspective, the cars being what they are here is because of that. Like, there weren't big crazy burnout and drag competitions, man. Aussie cars wouldn't, an prime example of this, anyone go to Motor X and walk around the main hall and you tell me what they're building. 20% Aussie cars. 80% is everything else, American, Jap, all the other stuff. So it's starting to shift, and they're starting to phase a lot of this out. And people always ask me, when you came up with the idea, like, did you ever think it'd be as big as it would get and all that sort of stuff? And obviously not to sound like my head's in my butt, but I was like, well, I never believed it couldn't be this big because the hole was there. They were trying to push out Australian car culture. They were trying to tell us that there's no nobility in being a bogan. And you know what? Screw that, man. I was born in Logan. I've lived my whole life in Logan, and I will always be a Logan bogan, born and bred. And it doesn't matter, like, and a lot of the products, when you see that, like, I think once some people sort of work out, and a lot of people won't know what that is, right? But Logan in Queensland is, the Werribee of Victoria? Yeah, right? Yeah, like it's bit wild, and there's some characters and stuff like that, but that's what exposed me to these cars.
Yeah, you didn't start it though. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just trying to relive and help people. Like me, we used to go to Newcastle, watch people drag down, what's it called, Tomago?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not giving nothing away. It's all over now. You do skits on the way down, race people and do bits and pieces. It's just, again, that's where you've got your, you know, your KPI, not KPI, what do you call it? Your market indicator is for that memory, you know?
Yeah.
Like I used to run an LX four-door, people would be going down there in VNs and, you know, HQs and doing skids and,
Yep.
you know, we've beaten Japanese vehicles and not all the time.
Yeah. That's because they started putting forced induction on them all. My old man always used to say to me, there's no replacement for displacement, son. And then I bought my first XR6 Turbo, and we went for a run in it, and he turned around, like, he drove it, and it had a heavy duty clutch, let it out, spun the tyres, and he's just smashed the throttle to not stall it. And he was just like, what's in this? And I'm like, oh, it's 500 at the wheels, but like, it's just light and black. And he's like, oh, I've never driven anything like. He had worked through GTs and stuff all growing up, right? And the look on his face, man, that's the car culture to me.
Yeah.
Experiencing new things and in different ways, and it doesn't matter if it's the models or if it's the real cars.
It's a shame you've had some hurdles on that. You probably have reined some stuff back because of that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
What's something that slipped through and you went, fuck, I should have fought harder for that? And
I'm not going to say specific which car, but a chassis that was done on a car that they sent me they sent me a test shot. It had a 6-cylinder chassis on it. They sent me a decorated sample. It had a 6-cylinder chassis on it. They sent me a production sample. It had a 6-cylinder chassis on it. And then the product got here and it had a V8 twin exhaust on a 6-banger variant. And I lost my shit. But it's hard, man, because then at that point it was, do we have to gut all the stock and pull that one out of every box? And again, the way that the assortments are done, like, then it becomes do we have the time frame to really balk all the stock for 2.5 months while we get the new ones remade, shipped over, and then try and put them in and things like that? That's really, really bothered me. Really, that was the worst one.
Can I keep this authentic for a second?
Shoot.
And random. Adrian, what's an example of Jesse losing his shit? Give us a bit of a segue through that for me.
Well, we haven't had to replace the fire door yet. But the back of his head's pretty flat.
So that's not a birth defect, that's losing shit defects. Yeah, gotcha.
Unfortunately. I've been really well behaved, like the last, what you reckon, maybe 6 months. I've been trying really, really hard to be really well behaved, but it's hard, man, because when you're passionate, your passion's what drives you. It's very easy for that to get twisted and warped. And especially in the industry that we're in, because we're selling to hundreds of thousands of people. So then we get 100,000 opinions online. We got 100,000 people talking to us. And we went through this period where it was getting pretty bad, and a lot of guys, double-edged sword with this. Because we have such a devout following in a lot of ways, we have guys that are super passionate about the brand. But then the other side of that is when those passionate guys become angry, then we've got other guys that are passionate about it that tend to screenshot everything they say and send it to us. So I was getting like people threatening to drive down to work and hang me, set me on fire, all this sort of stuff. And honestly, man, it was the allegations, when you read it all, it was that they had convinced themselves that I was keeping their chase cars, so they were going to drive to my work and hang me. Like, that sort of stuff. And I know it's maybe not serious threats, right? Like, it's just maybe passionate people. But I got a wife and 3 kids, man. It's hard for me to cop that and then sort of not do anything or say anything, right? But that's the job. That's the CEO position. You're going to have people that don't like you. You're going to have people that don't agree with you. Can't react that way. And I've had to learn.
You shouldn't have to be put through that kind of.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I know you
Part and parcel.
broad shoulders, but you know, this is part of the reason why. Like, we'll get to the Anzac car in a sec.
Sure.
I did see and feel. I don't even know. We literally met first time today, but I was like, you could be broken after, you know, everyone's been through. People have been through a business that have had knockbacks.
Yep.
But not on your scale. People have been through where, like, I own a business, and I've had someone on Facebook go, fucking shit, whatever, and they don't get it. And I've had a good reputation with my company, and I'm born and bred in Muswellbrook.
Yep.
You know, and people know me, come back. That
Yes.
was my mantra, repeat.
Repeat
I'll
customer.
Look after them, I'll help them out. And I just sort of sensed, I don't think you're out to try and rip people off. Your ADHD or your fucking mental disorders.
Whatever's wrong with me.
Those passions mistaken as, I don't give a fuck, this is a car. Like, I don't think that's correct. And he questioned your passion. You have questioned your passion genuinely.
I haven't really spoken about this publicly, even to general people that just come in and talk about it, but that Anzac thing at the start, I thought was going to be one of the greatest philanthropy things I was ever going to do in my career. I was so excited to do it. How I set it up, like, lots of people try to equate what we do to mini GT and stuff like that, but I would say to those people, go and look at the structure behind their deals. You buy their cars, they donate $5 from the sale. They still make money, they still make profit, they don't cover costs. They make money out of these charities while they're making these cars. And there's nothing against doing that. I absolutely adore Mini GT Cato House products. Are amazing. Like, holy. But it's easy to do that sort of stuff when you still make money. You still benefit out of it. You still profit out of it, right? The Anzac thing, and part of the reason why we only did the 1915 cars is because I covered all the costs associated. Because in my eyes, it is a disservice to those people and what they lay down and the price they paid for our country to even try and recoup my costs on it. No one should ever have any right to make money off that. And that's why when we structured it, it was done in a way that I covered all the costs associated. I covered all the R&D costs, the cost to make the product, the shipping, the import duties, absolutely everything. And then every dollar that we raised out of selling them, every dollar's going to direct to legacy, not profits, not proceeds, not all the other bullshit that all these other companies try to twist the words, man, and try and make out like they're being philanthropists. I was taking a big hit, like more than 50% of the total amount of money we're going to donate, I was covering in costs associated with it. So it wasn't just about giving that money and showing that our community and the Aussies Wheels culture supports the vets. It was more about that I'm willing to also put my money where my mouth is. And my donation out of that part was all covering all the costs. So I looked at it like I was donating all the costs And then our community were pooling together to buy a car that was more expensive. It was not a $17.99 retail like the other ones. It was 35. It was a limited number. And even with that, the only reason they were that money was because we wanted to make a meaningful contribution out of doing it.
So where did it go wrong? Where did you have that hurt?
So I was talking to multiple, one at Legacy, but also multiple other ex-vets, and like shooting ideas to them, things like that. And the whole way through it, I never, ever, ever once got queried, have you spoken to someone about using the Anzac name? Now, I know this might sound so ridiculous on so many levels, but I thought as an Australian-born Aussie, right? Like I'm born and bred Aussie. I'm not making any money off it. I can show all financials to prove it. I'm just trying to do something nice for charity and give money to people who need the help.
So you made an educated assumption.
Based on the fact that everyone that I was talking to had never brought it up. Now, that's my fault, 1,000,000%. And I usually am not like that, man. I got a type of brain that I become obsessive over things, and then I have to know everything about it, all the context behind it, all of it. With this, I didn't go down that rabbit hole, and I think it was I was blinded by the idea of the philanthropy and what it represented, and that made the process fall over. And that was my fault, and I will openly admit that. It is my fault 100%. I should have done it. Now, at the time...
You don't think you did anything illegal? Anything? No. Purposely illegal?
No. So even with that, in the end, when they actually came to me and said, hold on a minute, what's to go with this? And look, I'll just say at full transparency, their first interaction with me was to send me an email and threaten me with federal jail time.
Well,
to which my reaction was, holy shit, I was just trying to give away all this money. Like, we're not making any money. I'm losing a whole heap of money. I was just trying to do something nice for charity. And it wasn't even just about charity. Since we started, I reckon, 1,000 different people have messaged the page that they're ex-vets and that they would love to see something for the vets. They would love to see that we would support them in the way that, in their eyes, they support the whole country. This was the first opportunity to do something like that, and I thought, because of the cause, I'm going to eat all the costs. We're not going to make anything.
Quick context, when you got that email, how deep were you into the project?
We were done.
Oh, fuck.
I had the stock in the country, and why they threatened me with federal jail time is because they alleged that I had bribed someone through customs to get the product in, because there's an embargo on the word Anzac. And I turned around and I went, no, sir, here's all the paperwork, here's everything. It was all done through email. I didn't speak to anyone. It's the same shipping company we always use. It was just air freighted instead of sea freighted. We didn't do anything. We didn't apply for special permits.
Flying, you thought you just fly in, yep.
Correct. So I already had the stock at that point.
So
And I
it must
went,
have been fucking deflating. Mega deflating.
mega deflating. And again, worse, because I was honestly really, really excited about doing this. Like, in my eyes, I was looking at, this is the first, personally, completely selfless, don't benefit from it in any way other than feeling like I'm doing something good for people who know. Now, even to a point we discussed with Legacy, why you wouldn't have seen a lot of content around this sort of stuff is we weren't trying to get a big content push out of it. We weren't trying to have it look in any way like the brand was trying to benefit from what we're trying to do. I was trying to create something to then turn around and donate. And even to an example of this, the amount of charities that I tried to go to at the start, none of these charities will allow you to give money to the people they help. You have to give the money to the charity.
That sounds backward.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because to me personally, and I know this can sound bad in a lot of ways, we, based on what we were going to do, the 1915 pieces, I already had in my head I was just going to cover the difference and round it up. It was going to cost me about 8 or 9 grand in the end, maybe to round it up to 70 grand that we donated. I wanted to, and I spoke to them and I said, what I'd love to do is find 2 people, 2 families that have been directly impacted by loss in military service in the last 6 months, and I want to walk up to them with a check and say, I know this doesn't even begin to help you at all, but I hope this at least helps you to make a plan for what you're going to do. Because you know that no amount of money in the world, man, is going to replace a loved one. like at all. But the sad reality is no charities would allow us to do that. Every single one of them said that it would be a disservice to their, because it's not fair for everyone else. And I'm like, but you wouldn't have the money anyway, and it's not you picking. Oh no, but we can't do that. And where I always get caught with these charities, man, is they all have admin, they all have employees that they pay. Not everyone there is working for nothing. So out of every dollar that you donate, maybe 20 cents goes to where it's going to. I didn't want that. To a family who I thought could need it and say, here is enough money to help you a little bit, to give you a couple of months of breathing room. And I know, like, that sort of, with the cost of living crisis and everything, man, inflation's gone so bad. Like, people can't afford to live. And I mean, when in that situation, I don't know if you've looked into this much. This is my obsessive brain, right? But you go and have a look at any of the pensions or any of the payments that those people get. It's like nothing, man. They don't care. They don't honour their people. They don't honour their memories. They shit all over it. And while they give all that money away to people overseas, like it seriously,
It's a massive conversation.
not to obviously pivot too much, but man, it genuinely, it crushed me, and crushed me from a perspective of, this to me is just gone to show that it doesn't matter what your intentions are. It doesn't matter how open you are about what you're doing. You're always going to end up in it. And the sad reality of that, it all came out later on. But the DVA didn't find out about it. Someone who's been starting shit with me a lot in this industry went and ran their mouth and tried to dob me in to get me in trouble. Obviously not thinking that they would tell me that it had been reported to them. Now, no average Oswheels fan who saw what we were doing, that we were making something very limited, doing something that we donate every cent to the charity, is going to go and dob me in for doing that. It's someone who didn't like the brand and doesn't like me in the way that I operate. And, you know, it is, man, seriously. And even to a point, he got backed up a half ago because that same person, alleged, I will say that, alleged person, went and sent the video that Migueli clipped up of the Anzac thing, where me being like, to all of you that fucking give me a hard time and blah, 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 kicked it all off again. And I said, I'm like, look, I completely understand, and I understand where you're coming from, and I'll always take any feedback you give me. I'm not here to argue with you at all. I understand you have full authority on this. What would you like me to do? They made some recommendations. I adhered to everything they said. Ultimately, what it's come down to is that, and this is the saddest part, and Adrian can attest to this, I was so excited once we physically got the sample of what this was going to be, that I rung Killer Cars Michael, the guy who runs the biggest Anzac Day car show in the country. And then I got onto the RSL and I spoke to the DVA. And for next year, we were going to do like 20 or 30,000 cars. We were going to put them in every RSL. We were going to put them everywhere. And I wanted to walk up to one of these charities with a monster check, like something that people never conceive in their lifetime, and say, this is from the Oswheels community, right? Key point, it's not from me. I might be steering the ship a little bit, right? But it's not about me. It's about the community and the fact that everyone come together to support an amazing cause. And after all this stuff's happened, I turn around to Adrian and I'm like, I don't think I have it in me to try and wind this up 100 times and do it way bigger. Because even with the number, the amount of abuse, man, that I've copped online about the reason that we only ran 1915 was because I was trying to make it a scalper item and I was trying to destroy the legacy of this and that. And I tried to explain, like, I don't have infinitely deep pockets. If I had $200,000 that I could just put in a bin and set it on fire, I would have gladly run a massive big run and then just covered all the costs and did it. But we had to do it in a way that made sense for the business and that we could afford to do it, man, because we're not a massive big corporate company. We're not $1 billion turnover. We don't have parent companies. I own the whole brand. I started the entire brand by selling every asset I physically owned in my life to put all the money in to make the first 2 tools. So the biggest help, and I do say this to everyone, the biggest help that I got from DDA genuinely at the start was My folks let me have my office space for the first 6 months for free. My dad also loves being involved in the 3Ds and stuff, and he loves seeing what we're working on. So he works with me a lot on that sort of stuff. But other than that, it's steady. Like
That's where what re-initiates your passion.
100%. Every time, like
That's where what re-initiates your passion.
100%. Every time we get a new product drop, and you know, FSD Series 3 is a prime example of this. Like, boatload of new tooling, massive costs involved, but then I get to hold the set in my hands for the first time, and I look at it and go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the 700 hours that went into making the tooling, designing everything, doing the 3Ds, designing the packaging, doing everything for it. It doesn't matter anymore because look at it. No, you're never going to get that back. And this is like, for me, it's kind of, that's what creates the roller coaster of emotions, I suppose, is because I was classified as getting kicked in the bits, right? And so like when I know I'm in a real bad place and he can tell when I've gotten to that point is when I start going, man, I don't know if I can be kicked again. I just don't know if I can take it anymore. And it sucks to say it, man, because I hate sounding like that I've lost that drive and that passion, but it's hard when... I was talking to Adrian about this the other day, and even when you actually broached this topic, which kind of triggered my mind, right? You asked about hobbies. I don't have any. This is what I do all day, every day. And the only time I'm not doing this and thinking about this and being creative in this is when I'm with my kids. Like I've always tried to, I train my son's soccer team in under 12s at Bethania Rams down here. So I've always tried to do that to make sure that he gets that one-on-one time with me as well, and show him that I can always show up and I can be on time. Man, one of the craziest things I've ever done in my whole career was we were at Bathurst, and the kids, the boys had their soccer awards for the year, for the season, and they had absolutely crushed it. They had such a sensational year. We had one loss all season, like just crushed it. I was in Bathurst. And I could tell all the boys were disappointed. So I didn't tell any of them. I dumped him and Miguel at Bathurst, and then I drove back into Sydney from Bathurst, jumped on a plane, flew home, drove from the airport to the club, gave out the soccer awards, hugged all the boys and told them that I was so proud of them and all that, right? And then drove back to the airport, got on a plane and went back down. And then I think I got back into Sydney, or back into Bathurst about 1 a.m. in the morning, I think, and then got up the next day and we went back into Bathurst again for the track. But just little things like that, that to me also was a bit of a, maybe I felt like I'd kind of made it in a way. Lots of people don't get that privilege. It cost a lot of money and it took a lot of time, and it really did. It was probably too much money than I should have spent. But how could I not do it for my son, you know? Like, yeah, and then I looked at it like, well, I've spent the last 6 months killing myself, right? Sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night if I'm lucky, you know, working these monster hours. And then in the end, like, how can I not go and do that? Like, that's the reward. That's what all those hours were for. And then my daughter is she's quite creative, and she's got a bit of a me brain, I always say. She's very much a young clone of me. So I get her involved. She draws random cars for us and pictures and stuff like that for me, and I do all that with her. And I really, 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 really enjoy that stuff with her. Like, it's just pointless creativity. It's not doing it to get something. It's just doing it to bond with my daughter and just love every second of it. But I kind of get caught a little bit with my youngest because, you know, she's 3 now. She's 3.5. In January she turned 3. But I've missed so much, man, of her life. I'm just never around because all I do is work. Like, even when I'm at home, like, we work 7 till 4 at work. Most days I don't even get into work till 8 o'clock. And that's usually because I get off teams with the factory or with the engineer I use in London, 2:30 in the morning. Like, and then by the time, again, my brain, I can't just wind down, right? So then I've got at least another 2.5 or 3 hours in me. So I don't. I go to bed at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. most days, and then I get up. But you know, with 4 or 5 hours, if I'm lucky, I'll get 5. Most times 3 to 4 hours, and then back to work.
So your hobby at the moment is sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like I'm not at all complaining about that, right? Like, please do not think,
No,
or anyone at
I
home.
wanted to talk to you about it, so it just brings you back to the human factor as well.
Yeah.
One before we keep going, that kick you in the guts while you're down there.
Shoot.
Back, you got accused of. You were talking about supers.
Yes.
Duplicating
Numbers.
Now, you told me the story about that. I liked it. Can you?
Yeah. So,
spill the beans? Because I
okay.
think it needs to be.
So with the numbers with this, guys, I actually did see. I was
The
sent.
numbers on the Anzac.
Yes, I was sent a clip video of it, and what was said. Those numbers were actually locally printed here at Office National, and then they were manually applied by the staff down in the warehouse. So Adrian, sitting right over there, guys, right over that way. So I can, if Office National double printed a number, maybe, we checked the sheets and scanned over them all. Obviously, we didn't sit there and look at every single number, but scan, yes, that's sequence sort of thing. So I can't 100% say there definitely wasn't, but based on, and I did go and ask all the staff, how was it done? Show me. And I mean, I already knew. I already set them up to do it and was spying on them randomly, of course, make sure they're doing it. But it was done all manually. So, and all the stickers were printed here. And I can show, I mean, we discussed, I can pull up the invoice and show you what I asked them, what I emailed them and asked them to order, what they gave me. The only numbers that we ever ended up with a double up of, any of the numbers, were the 0000 production samples. And I didn't want to have no numbers on the production samples, but I couldn't give them numbers because they would create exactly this problem. So we didn't do that. So they are the only ones, and they're labeled 0000, sort of like this, like that coin. That's what we do with all the production stuff.
Gotcha. So how did they find their way to, like, how did, I think number 13, I don't know, was maybe, anyway, say number 13 went on a super. How did that super get that number? Random?
Yeah, random. So they are, because we can't, there is zero way, and anyone who tries to tell you this, and I've even been in the factories where they number them, man, they lie. They don't go, oh, this is number 1 off the production line, this is number 2 off the production line. They do all the production, and then at the end, they stick the stickers on. No brand in this planet does any of that. But for when we were doing it here, originally we were just going to have them all the same color stickers, so all the one. And it was actually Adrian's idea, and he said, well, he's like, we're selling the supers and royals, everything's going out. He's like, what if we number them and make the colour different on the number? So the first 36, 36 chase cars. Then after that, you have the rule, and then it carries through until the very first standard car. And that was Adrian's idea, just to make it a little bit more special for the collector, that it wasn't just the same numbers and things like that as well. But even with those, when they were numbered and packed, they weren't then organised even in number. And then even on the wait list, if you were number 1 on the wait list, when it transferred across and we approved it, it might have made you order number 240. At the beginning, I love the idea of trying to get whoever was the first, however many on the list, to be the first to X amount. But the problem with that then becomes, there can become an allegation maybe of that you're cherry picking friends and people who get certain. So I went, we're not going to do that this time.
It only takes one random event to make that happen too.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And that's the biggest thing, right? So it's not even just like someone hurling an accusation. It's something happens and then that's how it's perceived. So straight away we had the conversation. Nope. Everything is jumbled and shuffled every single time, man, because it's the only way to truly make it somewhat fair.
Genuine what true for.
Yes.
It was a pretty harsh show. And I thought, fuck, no, they don't tell me. And then I'm like, why would they?
That's
Why would they? We're such a small community.
I say to everyone all the time, man, if you ever hear a rumor about something to do with the brand, that always needs to be your first question. Why would they do that? And I mean, I'm a big person for saying this, and I probably shouldn't because it does get me in a lot of grief, and people get a perceived complexion about me, I suppose. But I didn't need to do this to make money. My entire life, I played lots of video games when I was a teenager. I didn't play video games like normal kids. I didn't just spend thousands of hours playing. I worked out how the markets worked in the game. I worked out how to make my account worth money. And then I would start an account, run it up, and sell it. That's how I made my money. And then I did that all the way through school. That's how I managed to buy my first car and all that. And then since then, like, man, I've had poor 19 now, or 20 different cars. Like every 4 or 5 months, I'd buy something, I'd fiddle on it a little bit, I'd do a few little up me and personal, and then, you know, the ADHD kicks in and goes, oh, you want it again. So I would get a car, fix a car, sell the car for a little bit more than all the money I had in it, make a little bit and keep going, keep going, keep going. And I've always been like that. I chose this because in my eyes, in another 10 years, if someone didn't do something like this, these cars won't be viewed by kids anymore. It will only be guys like my age and older that even know what these are or care. And the biggest example I can give you is my son. Man, I make this stuff, and half the time my son can't even recognise half the Aussie cars when we go to a car show. And I make the stuff. So you imagine how much I talk about it at home, how much it's in my house. Like, he sees me all the time working on it. They've been very much pushed in a direction. It's all about Lambos. It's all about Bugattis. It's all about Ferraris and EVs. Everything else doesn't matter to the young generation. Correct.
It's horrible stuff. Horrible. It's going to be passion lost.
Agreed.
And I think on this...
He's got a BMW as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everyone gave me stick for it.
Yeah, gotcha.
I've always loved E30 BMW shapes. Always loved them. But the more I kept looking at one, I was like, it's just not me, right? Yeah, it just wasn't me. And then I came up with this big, great idea that I was going to put an M5 V10 motor in it and engine swap it and do all this and that. And then I did a bit of like engineering work to see what would work and what would fit and how to, if it could actually be done. And then about 2 months after that, they unveiled one at SEMA. And I went, oh, rip. Screwed me. Damn, I missed it. So then I went back and I was like, oh, what can I do with it now? Because I'd already bought the body. And I was like, oh. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could modify it enough to drop a Barra in it. So we had to make all custom engine mounts. We had to move the firewall back. It's all engineered, but it's dropped down in and it's all under bonnet. But then I kept looking at it and I'm like, just looks like a bulk stock E30. And then I was like, oh, I'll buy an M3 body kit or something cool. But then I was like, but it's not an M3. And then I'm going to be one of those guys, like, I went around and around like I always do. And in the end, I came up with, I drew my own body kit and I had it made in Budapest and then shipped it over. And so now it is 280 mil wider than factory wheel track. So 140 mil pumped guards. It's bagged all the way around, and it's got 1,000 horsepower out of the barrow at the wheels. It is Ferrari yellow, Medina, and it's a beautiful colour. It's got like a bit of a an orange pearl in it. So when it's in the shade more, it looks a bit more orangey yellow, and then out in the sunlight, it just pops like, oh, no. So the only place that car's ever been properly seen online, it was actually on a Bad Chad episode when he came over here, because the painter who was painting it was supposed to put a tow hook on the car. I sent it back to him for a tow hook, right? So you imagine how long that'd take to put a tow hook on. Like, it's a joke. He had the car for 4 months, and I was trying not to be difficult. I was trying not to ring him all the time, harass him, annoy him. And then I see this video pop on online. Yeah, it's just on roller, so it doesn't look great there, but I had custom-made wheels for it.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and then he's done this whole video, like, trashing me, man, like 100 grand under a tarp in Australia. And the painter's like, oh, yeah, he just, this young guy with all this money and, he just doesn't care and blah, blah. Man, I lost my shit. It was there for a freaking tow hook, man, and he had the car for 4 months. And then even worse, he'd put a tarp over the car. He'd just painted it, and he put a tarp over it and left it outside. And then it gets even worse, man, because the guy's sitting there and the painter, right, is like making up all this information about the motor because Bad Chad knows nothing about barras. So he's like, the customer said, like, this motor's 1,000 horsepower and it has no built internals, and, he's going to do this and then it's going to make 2,000 horsepower. And I'm like sitting there going, I never said I was making 2,000 horsepower. It does have all built internals. Like, he, like, murked me, bro.
Yeah.
And then when I went up there.
And now you've got beef with Bad Chad. Anyway, continue.
Well, Bad Chad he's actually a cool dude, man. Like, even when he was looking over the car, he's like, fuck, this is different. And then old mate's like, oh, yeah, like he drew it all up himself and wanted something different. Like, it was cool. He could appreciate the creativity. But yeah, old mate just went off the rails, man, talking about the power figures and all this shit. And the worst part ever was 80% of the comments on that video were then about how the painter was a crackhead. Not even about the car, because they were all like, who the hell believes you can put 1,000 horsepower out of a barrel with no internals? It just doesn't. Oh man, it sucked, but we got it back, and so that was the first like labor of love sort of project that I put way too much time and money and effort into. But every single component in the car is custom built.
Yeah, cool.
Everything.
So essentially, it's not a BMW.
It's got a BMW roof. That's the only thing that hasn't been changed. The roof and the A, B, and C pillars. Everything else has been modified in the whole car.
Almost probably chopped that. You thought about it.
Genuinely. But again, it can chop it, and I just.
But that's a one-off. That's cool. What's obviously not going to do a BMW in the Oz, but you've got it's an Oz player.
Yeah, well, it was right-hand drive delivered, and obviously putting the Barra in it, and then I think that's part of why I went so full on with trying to modify it and change it, is because I an Aussie Frankenstein to show what are, and I tried to find as local suspension components, things like that, and try and build everything as much as we can that was Australia. So then that was the sort of the pitch. But yeah, I think it's because growing up, I always loved the Aussie stuff, but I very much, with all my friends, I got put in the. So from like 15 to 19, I was obsessed, like just bad. I went to every JDM car club we could. Like my first car was a Lancer that then I ended up putting an Evo 7 kit on it and a full cold air intake and fiddled with a few bits and pieces to try and make it sound like an Evo and look like an Evo, which was cool. And then after that, I bought a Mitsubishi FTO, the GPX model with the Myvec in it. That was cool as. I put a white body kit on that and side skirts, front bar and stuff. It looked clean. It was in the silver. And then I was actually driving that to work as a chippy. And then I came to the conclusion very quickly that was not suitable. So I went and bought a Ford Courier. Ran around in that for a while. Just loved it. Actually, I did nothing to that except put gas on it. And just drove it to work every day. And then I got caught because back then as a first-year apprentice, we were on $6 an hour and had no money. I couldn't afford, in the end, the two regos, two insurances. So I sold both and I went and bought a BA Falcon Ute that was a Typhoon mock-up. And that was probably the first Ford I properly owned that I loved. Like the Courier obviously is Ford, but was a work Ute. Bit boring, but...
These are the only two that we have kept. I can put them to you and you can have a look what numbers they are. They're going to be a charity goal.
And that was something that we were trying to find a charity to do it. I don't want to do this. This is something that I want to donate to a veterans charity and say, you need to do this as a raffle. You need to make it that all the tickets are claimable because the money is going to you, not to me.
Yep,
I would like to give you these, and then I would like to help you market to then
I don't
do
think
something
I'll
special.
be interested in that one.
Yes, he would. Yes. He is an animal. Warren, I reckon he'd love both of those.
Out of all of them, and that was again something to make it have more meaning. But I don't want to because lots of places were trying to say, "Oh, we'll do an auction on it,"
Yeah, gotcha.
and I'm like, I want everyone to have a chance to get it. I don't want it to just be positioned as whoever has the deepest pockets on the day can just pay a boatload of money and then walk away with it.
Yeah,
I don't.
gotcha. This is your first time you did a FJ too, isn't it?
Yep, as a youth.
It's good. Yeah, I've seen a raw, like me raw, but
Well, see again, like even with that, man, like name one other company on earth that's going to tool up a new tool and pay that sort of money,
yeah,
then turn around and do a 2,000 under 2,000 piece release on it
yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah,
No
it's
one.
pretty cool. Yeah, when you start breaking the mathematics down, you're an idiot, basically.
I'll just admit it. I hate saying that about myself, but I ultimately say to everyone, if you actually look at the numbers in what we do, like I operate the business in a very stupid way. I could make no. From a business perspective, right? We could make way more profit. We can make way more money, right? And be corporate. I don't want that. The common feedback that I get from licensees and licensors, or licensors specifically, which is kind of ironic, as much as they like it, they tell me how much of a cowboy I am. And I say, yeah, but look at the numbers we do for you. Like, that's how it translates. And it's because people can see that it's unfiltered. It's not politically correct. It's not all the things that everyone is starting to realise that society has become and we all hate. And that's a part of why I try to be more me. I mean, I say to everyone, when you watch a content video online, when I'm announcing a new product or something like that, that's the 12-year-old version of me that doesn't care what anyone thinks, doesn't care if people want to be silly, judge me for being silly or hyper or being excited about what I love. They're the only moments you'll see a 100% completely unfiltered, just me in my element. And it's probably what rubs some people the wrong way. And I can 100% understand that because, hypo silly, little child sort of thing, jumping around, it can be annoying.
It gets taken the wrong way, and that's why I wanted to, I don't want you to lose it.
Hmm.
It's, I like all brands. I'm not an Oswheels fanatic.
Yep.
I've got Oswheels. I've paid a lot of money for some. I've done exactly what you've told me not to do. I've done that with Kato. I've done that with some Hollywood.
Yes.
I've done that with M2. That M2's been my biggest regret. I thought they were going to be. But it's important for our hobby that you survive. Let's not get too fucking, you're not God.
No.
I'm not saying that, but you are the only one that's technically doing the product that, a lot of people can relate to. There's the truck, Highway Replicas Australia. I'm going to shout you out.
Yes.
Anyway,
Amazing product. Oh man, Peter crushes it with them. So those trucks.
but it's, they've got a passionate following. So do you. And I think it's important. And can I tell you a little story?
Yeah, sure.
That's why we need more than just a Hot Wheels here. We don't even make them. I'm not saying anyone makes it in Australia. So let's forget all that shit.
Yep.
But a guy reported back to me because I've had a lot of success on the truck stuff, and he had your 1-tonner
Yeah.
in his truck diorama setup with some tyres on the back of it. Where I'm from, we had those vehicles.
Yes.
I don't think he painted it. He just put there. He obviously got some diorama tyres or something, a couple of trucks, and just going out and doing a flat on the tyre.
See, that's sick.
That's Oswald. And I was like, that's why it's important to have it as a community, not as Oswald's is them and then that's them collectors. Because this guy, he probably would never buy another one.
Correct.
Or he may now because he got that.
He's looking at one.
But yeah, any personal beefs you've had.
Yeah.
We may on another chat.
Oh man, I'm happy for you to grill me. I mean, I know I said this to you originally, right? The reason, guys, why we were doing this chat is because for a long time I've been trying to find someone who, in my words or opinion, is non-biased, because I'm happy for you to put me on the spot and ask me the questions, right? Because there's so many rumours that get spread around and so many lies that get put everywhere online and things like that. And it's hard because I'd love to, and I used to get involved in a lot of the community groups and try and talk back and forward with guys and things like that. And in the end, it was a double-edged sword. I really enjoyed it because once people have context, it changes their viewpoint. So I didn't have to ever make up anything. I just had to give them that context so they could understand, and then that would help. But I always got caught because then I'd start getting blown up with 300-400 friend requests from people, and then if I don't accept them, then they would spam message me, and then the problem with that then becomes is then those guys start messaging me going, oh man, you want to sell me a chase? Like, oh dude, I showed Adrian, this is how far it got. I had to change my mobile number because somehow a collector had gotten my personal mobile number and was messaging me at least once a day, offering me thousands for chase cars. And at the start I was replying, man, I won't do it. It actually wasn't Warren, but yeah. And I'm like, man, I won't. I'm like, I just won't. I'm sorry. And then once I realized that answering him didn't help, I had to stop replying. And I hate that, man, because I feel like I'm ignoring the people who love my brand. But then at the same time, that could have very easily become a situation where he goes and tells everyone that I'm doing it, even though I'm not, because it's leverage to him to do it. And again, like I revert it back to, I make more money doing my job properly, and then I get to live with myself. Like, yeah, like, oh man, this eBay thing is like the bane of my existence, hey?
That's gone now. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got pumped hard for having secret eBay accounts.
Secret eBays. Man, I don't have the time. I don't have the time. And again, when it reverts back to the detriment something like that would cause to my brand and to my personal morals to myself, if I ever did something like that, it would genuinely make me question my own sense of me. You know, like we've discussed them before. I've been offered lots of money to shill shit, to say certain things, and I won't ever do that, man. And it doesn't matter. You could offer me all the money in the world. Someone asked me the other day, and I don't know, I think it's just garbage getting spread around, but apparently someone's been saying that some big brand is going to offer me all this money to try and buy me out, sort of thing. And I laughed because I got asked, well, what would you say? And I'm like, there's not a number. I love this.
Don't think your work's done yet.
My work will be done when every single body shape in Australian history is produced as a model. Then I'll be done. Because at that point, everyone who's ever experienced what Australian car culture is going to have some form of that to relate to, and to have one little one sitting on the shelf.
How
You know.
can we get your passion across the hobby? Now that's a big question because the egos have to be moved. People's intentions.
Correct.
End games. You know, I'm not here, like me, I could be here going, all right, let's wrap it up. What do you got for me? I'm not going to do that. You know, I like the hobby. I don't want you to fall over. Have you been accused of some shady shit? Yes. Who hasn't? I think you've come across pretty decent on anything. Like, people are going to still take away and go, fucking bullshit. My mate's
Of course.
brother's son's got a photo of Jesse at the PO box or something, you know.
Oh man, even to a point on that, right? Like we laugh about this. Adrian, do I go to the post office ever anymore? Because exactly that. I was concerned that someone would see me at the post office. No, it's serious. I was down. I was in the photos. Oh, rip.
We're back, are we?
Yep.
Yeah, reconnected.
But yeah.
So yeah, back to we can get to this another time. But yeah, if you were the grand poobah that was going to go right, this is how we're going to run the hobby.
Yep.
What's the things that you reckon we should implement, change, do not take the Oswald's hat off?
No.
Because I believe you're a collector as well. You have been. You've told me you've got Hot Wheels as well. You know, from back in the
Yeah,
day.
and lots of green light too.
The green light. Like, how can we? Because I want to see events. I don't want to compete in the
No.
country, but I just want us to have the availability.
You know what I genuinely think the only thing that will ever actually cast events that are not about one brand, not about the event to be stroking the ego of a brand, for it to be about the consumer community.
Who would run that?
I've tried to do a few people. I personally can't do it as much as I would love to, and I've tried to. A lot of the other manufacturers, unfortunately, and there could be varying reasons as to why, don't want to work with me. And not from a perspective of that we've had previous dealings in the past that something's gone wrong or anything like that. And again, I don't know 100%. I've been told by some people that things are being communicated, but it's almost coming across as a point of they don't want to be seen as supporting an Wheels event. And it's silly because to me, like, I run Drake, Bruce. I have a very good relationship with Bruce. And I said, this is what I'm thinking, Bruce. What do you think? I love that idea, mate. What do you want from us? How do you want us? But he's a collector, mate. A lot of these other brands, dude, this is the difference, right? Bruce gets caught sometimes because he doesn't own lock, stock, barrel, everything. So he does have someone he has to answer to ultimately, and it has to be run a certain way. But you look at the product that he makes and his passion for it, man. I love that. He's been a huge mentor to me in a lot of ways. I just ring him to just talk to him about different stuff, random stuff. Doesn't have to be about product. He's a really genuine, good bloke. A lot of these other brands don't have that. They're not collectors, man. They don't care about the customer. They don't care about the community. All they care about is making money. And it sucks, but that's, you know, I asked Bruce, I said, where's your love for this come from? I'm like, it can't just come from models because there wasn't a lot of truck models that you would have loved. And he's like, no, the real trucks. And I'm like, well, that's what I always equated to me. Like, I do have probably an unhealthy obsession with the real cars, but I've never been in a position to be able to own them all, to have them all, to experience them in that way. But this gives me that opportunity in a different way. But to me, it's still similar. And I genuinely believe, like, a mass scale thing that's done like that, but it comes back to who would do it? Because this is the sad reality. Every single person who runs those events, it's always about cost. It's always about making money. Every event we go to, that's not the first thing on my brain. The first thing on my mind is, how can we activate? How can we do this? How can we do that? I mean, I will admit, I'll say it right now, it costs us, with zero things happening or going wrong, cost me $1,100 a skid in the bomber. So when you see that car go hard for a minute and 15 seconds, that cost me $1,100. Now, again, zero damage, zero issues to anything. Tires and fuel. That's what you're at. So when we go to all these events, all we look at, is it a strong community? Is whoever the event organizer is in trying to bring in more and trying to push a community aspect, be about the cars, not about the profit, not about the money. I always call it, and I tell everyone this, but I call it the Ken Block mentality, right? Ken Block was the best rally car driver, but the worst rally car driver. He never won anything, but he was the fan favorite. And you know why? Because he never gave a shit about money. He never gave a shit about winning. He gave a shit about putting on the best event for the fans, because without the fans, they don't exist. Rally didn't exist. And that's me, right? Like the last expo that we did with Dimitri, like we gave away $50,000 worth of product on that games night. Now, I'll stroke my ego and say it. Show me another brand that do that. Show me Hot Wheels do that. Yeah, for everyone who like, they bathe it over, they compare it to a Hot Wheels premium, and like, I love Hot Wheels. I collect lots of them, right? Premiums don't have multiple piece bumpers. Their interior is single piece injection. I could make all those changes too and make them cheaper. But what's the point? We're trying to make a collectible. Now, when they did it, their market is a little bit different. The collectors sort of came on later, but their market is mass market. So their cars are built in a way that they don't break. Like, they're brilliant, right? You know, you pick up a Hot Wheels and throw it, man, and nothing ever comes off it. Robust stats. But in doing that, lost the scaling, lost the perspective, and then in the end, mass produce everything. Nothing wrong with that, because you make money doing that. That's how corporate business should run. That's how it should work. That's not us. You know, even when, like I said, when we deal with sponsors, if I had two sponsors come to me, one offered me way more money, but the other one was a better product, personally, I think I'm always going to go with the better product person, because I never, ever, ever want the brand to be viewed as shilling things. It's not how you build a community. You don't build a community by shilling stuff onto people. But this is where it goes back to the event, because, and the reason why I think the having two, and the logic behind this is, we've all succumbed to it at times. It's easy to be a keyboard warrior. But what I've noticed is that every diecast event, and I've even seen guys that have been going each other in community things because I recognize them from their photos, and they're at events. That is how you fix all this toxicity, all these problems. Is everyone needs to come together, and they all need to understand that ultimately we're all a part of one thing because we all love one thing and commit to one thing. That's the connection. We can all be different. We can look different. We can sound different. We can have different interests in other ways. But what assimilates us is our love for these things. And the only way to get that across, I genuinely believe, is to have them come to the shows and be talking face to face with each other.
Are you prepared to do that?
Man, I can't give away too much because I don't know exactly how it's all going to lay out and plan, but I have approached a few different people and I have approached a few different areas, and we're even trying to see if we can still just do it ourselves. I have gone to a few of the ones that originally told me no and still said, we want to do it. I've even offered, because manufacturers, because everyone who makes Australian content is important, and getting them all in place and then getting them to act, man, in a big way, because they don't want to. And I mean, can you blame them? Who wants to go to an event and lose money? It takes a special kind of idiot, right, to do that, to go to an event and burn cash. Like, we talk about it all the time. Any event we go to outside of Queensland, 35 grand up, starting point. That's costs. That's accommodation, staff, flying the staff there or driving there, fuel, getting the cars there, getting the stock there. 35 grand in a hole. On a big show like Summer Nats, we'd be over 100 grand into the event, into one event. And then the opposite side of that is anyone that goes to host the diecast events doesn't even want to scratch that. And I'm like, I spend that to go to an event someone else is already hosting, man. If I was hosting my own, it'd be a whole different kettle of fish, because then you're getting ticket sales in. There's lots of other metrics to actually to break even, to monetize the event to a point to break even. When we go to big car shows like Summer Nats, there is one opportunity, is sales.
Yeah, it's not even a diecast show.
Correct. It's not even that way orientated. And I don't care to do that, because I've always been a very, very big advocate for this industry will change and become better the stronger the community gets built.
On that, there's something that's I wasn't going to bring it up now because I don't want my low budget YouTube timer to buzz out. But the what do you call it, customizing world,
Yes.
I think has got a little momentum, and hopefully there might be some synergy from your Motorexy people and your that might go, you know what, like, because what do? They show people's custom cars.
Yes.
You know, and I can't see why there can't be a big an Oswald car, a Hot Wheel car, the car, because there is. I've been talking to a few just to get the vibe.
Yep.
And some people love and hate your car to pull apart. You know, but they love that they can unscrew it and they get a bit janky on plasticky welds.
Uh-huh.
But it's an art form tool, and some of the results have been pretty epic.
They've been sensational, man. And again, like customizing is such a huge, important part. I definitely think so. So part of what we discussed at trying to host something like this is why I wanted to do 2 a year is because I wanted to have them in different so that we could try and make it cost effective for people to get there. But two, because I want to run. This sounds kind of silly, and I don't want to give away too much, but eventually I'd love to run a competition at these events where we do a fan favorite. So everybody enters their favorite car. We put them all online and it gets voted ranked up. And then maybe we produce that car and pay a little royalty or licensing fee to the person who made it. Now, I look at it from the perspective of if I was the collector and I'm very creative and I did something like that, it would be an honor to then have it made. But then if that company also then turned around and said, well, we'd like to pay us, even if it's a small amount, but per unit, so you get something for your time too. How sick's that? Like, and it even translates across to like.
I don't think that's happened. Yeah.
No one's done it. No. And like I was talking about it for ages and ages. And then last year, I think it was, they did that Pizza Hut activation where they did the Pizza Hut and they put the supercar on the box and you colored in the box and then they made it into the wrap.
Gotcha.
Straight away, I was like, I love that. And what I loved about that the most is all the photos, man, and the videos that were getting uploaded. They were dads and kids, mums and kids, spending bonding time together, talking, being creative, talking about the cars. Even though I'm not a big fan of supercars, I love what it brings the community, man. Like what we were just talking about, it brings everyone together. And that's what I'd love to do with that. I've always been a little bit caught because a lot of stuff gets thrown at me online about how I operate my brand. And it's usually things along the lines of, well, if he's just going to make whatever he wants or whatever he likes, then he's a wanker. And kind of the irony, I suppose, in a lot of it is they're the same dudes that then turn around and say that they're going to get customs made overseas and then they're going to sell them to people. If you're designing your own custom and then getting it made overseas and selling it, you're the same wanker as me. I mean, not to be that guy, right? But it's like, what else do I do with that, man? Like, I don't want to be rude, but like when someone will sit there and call you the worst names under the sun and then try and turn around and say they want to do the exact same thing as you. Well, my advice to you, friend, if anyone is listening to this, is go and sell every asset you own in your life. Go and pull together about 250 or 300 grand and then go to China and then pray that you get a factory that doesn't steal your tooling, steal your 3D designs and give you nothing. Pray you don't get a factory that runs off an extra few 5,000 or 6,000 pieces of your product every single time and sell it into the Chinese market, because that's huge, right? There is so many things to this, right? And then even with the tool shops, like anyone can, if one tool shop's making tooling for 4 or 5 different brands, which is usually the case, especially if it's a good tool shop, anyone from any of those 5 brands could walk in at any point and start looking at your stuff and see it. You have to have faith and trust in who you work with, that all they're ever allowed to do is see it, but you never truly have the ability to control that. So there's super amounts of risks in every single way, shape and form. And even to a point of that as well, I've seen tons of crap online that I don't own my own tooling and that DDA and Daddy's money paid for all this. Now I can, and I'm happy to do this as well because my old man is downstairs. I'm happy to grab him and have the conversation. But my proof in that I own my tooling and that it's not owned by the factory who produces my things, which I'm not going to say a brand, but one of the biggest brands in Australian history, how they lost all their tooling is because they never owned it. It was owned by the manufacturer, not by them. It was amortized in to the cost of the product, so they never owned their tooling. This is how you know you own your tooling. This is called a copper template, and the only way to have one of these, if you want to hold it, it's pretty heavy, pretty important, is if you own your own tooling. That comes out of the tool shop. Solid copper. That's what they use. They run an electrical current through it. the finer details into the tool. The only way to own them and to physically have them is if you own your tooling, because they won't let you take them.
So I know you do have your cars do have a good, like they do look like they can be open. Some of them, not all die-cast. I like that.
No.
Smoke away, my friend. But it's pretty. It's pretty cool.
Look, well, I've always been trying to.
I don't want them to open.
No, well,
But they look like you could, and I reckon that's cool.
I never wanted to pigeonhole us. Position to that we could scale up what we're doing. We could add more detail. We can do this. We can do that. That we can do it without me having to turn around and spend another $2 million on retooling everything again from scratch. And, you know, again, if this wasn't such a big cost, and a big thing I say to everyone with this sort of stuff, right? Yeah. When you make a tool, one of these, by the time you do R&D, time, and then pay for the tool, about $100,000 a body, right? So at that point, you've then got to produce product, which you've got to pay for that product. That's the one. Yeah, it weighs about 5 or 6 kilos weapon, bro. It's absolutely nuts. I love them though. And again, right, like it's different, but it shows like the level of detail in them. But sorry, back was what I was saying. I never wanted to be caught that we couldn't do better. So everything I've tried to do in a way, like even when we did the bodies, we redesigned our entire own way of how the tooling works so that we could make more body variants, more like so when we do like XW, XY, instead of having 2 full body tools for that, it's 1 full body tool and then a heap of slides to change all the panels on the car to make it back to what it should be, right? So in doing that, we didn't get 2 for 1, but we saved maybe 30% on the second one. So that's given this ability to do more and more and more tools very, very quickly. But that's where all the money goes. That's where all the R&D and the work time is. Like, no, and that's why, like, and again, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, man, talking about it, because I don't want it to come across like I'm gloating, like, look how much money I've spent on all this stuff. Correct, or cutting corners or anything like that either. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's rough. My old man has always been the kind of guy that has always known what I was capable of, I'll say. So endlessly drove me at anything I did. There was never a peak. There was never a top of the mountain where you got that then my old man turned around and was like, you're a champion. It was, you can do it, son. Keep going. With everything. Like, that's the way I've been my entire life with all this stuff, man. Even with the cars, like, I knew I couldn't afford to own fancy cars, but then I thought, well, if I buy cheap ones and I sort of, fiddle with them a little bit and make them cool and then sell them, make a little bit of money, after 3 or 4 of them, like, I can buy a really nice car. And and I've always progressed like that. My old man's a die-hard Ford man, and like I was raised like that, dude. Like I own 6 different BA Falcons. Like I love my Fords. But then as I started getting older, I obviously started a bit more of appreciation for the Holden body shapes and bits and pieces. But also, again, the sad reality, I am still even a little bit governed by the market in that sense. If I had my own way, man, I'd do all the Fords that I love. I'd do Cordies and stuff like that I love. My uncle that just passed away has a TTD, or it might be TC. Oh, damn, now I've forgotten. Anyway, yes. And he passed away last year, and that car's been in parts in his shed 30 years, right? And I was like, man, I'd love to do something with that and love to build it. But where I caught, and this is the sad reality, the fact, Holden's a 4-to-1 ratio. You'll sell 4 Holdens to every 1 Ford car. And, I'm a Ford man. I love my Fords more than most of the Holden shapes, which is ironic, right? Because all the cars I own, I lied, my tow vehicle's a Ford. All the rest of the cars are all Holdens. but they're my favourite body shapes, like the VL, the police car. Like I loved that BT1. It was so cool. Yellow's my favourite colour, so straight away the colour just does it for me. And then Maloo. And what I always loved about the Maloos is one single piece body. I hated that the Fords chopped the back because it looked cheap. It looked like they didn't think the market was worth the investment, so they've just made a generic that they could just swap the back tray on and keep going. And I hated that. And that a lot of that mentality is what I've sort of tried to carry into this stuff. And again, I will always say to everyone, man, I'm not perfect. I wish I was. I wish I knew everything, and I wish I could do everything like the best version every single time. And I'm always going to strive and push myself and try to make changes in that. But ultimately it comes to a point like, where do you draw the line? You know, and full disclosure, I haven't been. The last 3 years of my life, I've almost destroyed my relationship because the missus got done. You know, for, 4 months straight, I was pretty much doing 19-hour days. So never saw me, no help with the kids. Kids missed out on everything except for soccer, and I pretty much hadn't got nothing that I could do with my daughters. I just never had any time. Like, the cost. And I think that's where it goes back to, like, the passion, right? When I started to lose a bit of that, it was that I felt like I was paying the ultimate cost to create this community and try and build something to bring everyone together. And then in the end of it, I was losing my time with the thing that most in my life. If anyone you ever speak to about me should be able to tell you this, but I tell everybody that whatever I achieve in my life will mean nothing because my legacy on this earth will be my children. And I truly believe that.
The irony of it is you're probably now working hard for those kids.
Correct.
You know, and your relationship with them.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
And that's where it's hard, man. Like, I know everyone's always going to have their own opinion and what they see online and things like that can be skewed. I've met influencers, man, that you view them online and you'd think they're the biggest, like, head up their bum, think they're the greatest dudes in the world. And then you talk to them and they're just average bloke. It's just, you know, when you have a personality and you are someone, my whole life I've had to wind that down, right? Because you want people to not be turned off by you or think you're annoying or something like that, right? But to be in a position now almost to a degree where I can, within reason, just be a bit more myself. And like, I don't have to be worried about issues. Like, I don't have a boss over me that's going to turn around and be like, man, you behave like a 12-year-old in that video. That's not on. Like, yeah, like no one can do that to me. And then it's kind of flipped the opposite way to make sure that that doesn't go to my head. Because I'm not that kind of person.
You need to be kept to
Correct. Correct. Which is why, I mean, we discussed this a little bit on the phone, right? I'm my biggest critic. For all of you at home that give me a hard time, seriously, you don't even scratch the tip of like how hard I am on myself, on everything, all the time. Because ultimately I know there's all the accountability is mine. I'm responsible for it all. And there's no point in like, I used to get frustrated because I'd be like, well, you know, there's only like 3 of us that work this whole thing. We're not some massive corporation with 20 staff that I can do this and do that. And, you know, I wish we were. But then on the other hand, I kind of like that we're not. You know, we're a bit more raw. We're a bit more us. We get to be a bit more free when we go to events. You know, and again, with hiring, like I try to hire guys that have the passion and the drive. I can teach all the other stuff that I need done. I just need guys that I can trust and that I can work with.
Something everyone asks for. It's all Matchbox one.
Oh,
Are you Falcon?
Are you kidding?
Mate, if you're ever going to do one of these, you do it in a taxi. That's the only thing I wouldn't suggest. The only thing that's been around the clock.
Man, I again, right? I love the old AU Falcon. Like, and another car, despised by so many people, but I genuinely believe if we make it, it would be a banger. And then, again, this goes back to, what other brand's going to look at it like that? Now, I look at it and go, well, I live in Beenleigh, so every night when I'm awake at 2 o'clock in the morning, all I hear is, ba, 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 like for an hour and a half. That's all you hear everywhere coming from every direction. And I love it. I think it's actually probably one of the things that cooks me and I can't sleep because I get off Teams and then all of a sudden I just hear all the cars going and I just sort of sit back and I have a cigarette and just stare at the sky and just listen to it. Yeah, 100%. But again, with the AUs, right, like who's going to turn around and make one then? Because if you go online and you actually look into it, everyone hated them. Lots of people owned them, but they weren't a desirable vehicle.
No, I respect them.
Me too.
That's it. Yeah.
I respected them for what they were.
I get it. Now, I purposely haven't mentioned anyone or any. I wanted our first chat to be helping you to clear the air if you could, which I
Yeah.
And me personally, I'm about the hobby itself. I don't the politics and the drama. I'd love to call you, not call you out. I shouldn't say that. I'd love to like put some hard questions to you because you probably wanted me to. And if you'd ever have me back,
I'm more than happy. I know we discussed this, man. Send it.
But I've been saying that all week, yeah, for other reason. But I wanted people to understand a little bit about me that I don't want to come here and just like start being Jesse's mate or other people's mates and all that. I genuinely like cool shit in the hobby.
Yep.
Stop. It's as simple as that. And I've said it before, I want you to succeed, and I
Thank
hope
you.
someone has gone, fuck, you know what, I'm going to go back and buy Oz with me, because he's not that big a wanker as and I did get something
Just a
from
little
Indonesia painted. Fuck, so I am a wanker like you.
Look, man, and the funniest thing is, part of the reason I made that brand was for those people too. Like, I want them to have something to customize. I want them to have something to work on, to make it their own, so that they can have a little bit of that feeling that I get. I know it's not the same.
I don't know if many
but
people know that you had that intention, or always have had that intention. I bet you there was some vehicles that you're like, fuck, that's very impossible to do that. They're going to have to like be a builder. They're going to have to be a serious customizer to do. But you did tell me you've always had in mind from the get-go. It's never been able initially, but
Yep.
as you went along, and I can see that, screw bottoms.
Well, all the changes, and then seriously speaking, that was all from feedback.
Yep.
And this is where people get stuck into me that they're like, oh, he doesn't want feedback unless people kiss his ass. And I'm like, no, I love genuine feedback. But if I ask someone, like, what do you think? And they go, it's shit. Oh, okay, why is it shit? Like, what do you think shit about it? Oh, I don't know, it's just shit. Well, if you can't articulate what you mean, then clearly you don't even know your own opinion, because how do you know it's shit if you can't tell me why? And that's where like a few guys have gotten that reaction from me and then turn around and they're going like, oh, he's a fuckwit, he's this, he's that, he's so up his own ass. And I'm like, well, no, but like, how am I supposed to go from that? So when I got feedback saying the riveting is no good, they need to be screw bottom. Okay, I can do that. And that was the, man, these rivets are killing me. This is such a bad design. Like, can you look at screwing them for us? So it wasn't even like he wasn't being overly nice to me or anything. He was just direct. I love that, man. And a big part of...
That's harsh, but fair.
Yes, I've always said that. I love that. I've always said I'm the king of that. Give me the feedback because I like the feedback. But I'm also the type of person that I'm not going to stand there while you spit in my face. So I'm happy to have the conversation, but it's got to, like, we have to be on the same level sort of thing. And it's a mutual respect thing, right? Like, I have to give the respect too. My old man always taught me my whole life. You give respect to get respect. So you always try to put the best foot forward first. But you do ultimately get caught a little bit, man, because you're like, well, what do? You can't keep everyone happy. And the reality of it is, again, I'll quote my old man, he always used to tell me, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. And I started looking at it more and more. It's not a negative, though. Lots of people look at that like it's a negative. I don't think so. I've copped a lot of the negativity of that side. But if we were all the same, man, everything would be so boring. What makes me different in this stuff is that I'm different. In the same way, what makes Bruce different with his trucks is because he's different. Like, it's the superpower. Like, that's special, you know?
I got it.
I don't know.
Yeah, little things like this you can see, like that's behind the car, you know, they're getting too
Yeah.
bloody, you know, like we're a movie storyline. But yeah, you can, like that there to me says there's a lot of shit that goes on to get that onto a bit of cardboard.
100%.
I'd love to talk more about that because I think printing the cards, the plastic mold, not just to protect it, but you know, how you put it, like I genuinely think people appreciate just some story on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And for me as a collector, again, I dig it.
Well, I'm a big fan of the, you know, you probably watched a bit of them, but the How It's Made series, right? Like, so much so that every time I've ever gone to China, I've refilmed the whole production process every single time I'm over there. I've just never had the opportunity to clip it all together and edit it properly so it looks perfect. But we've gone through every process and shown like close-up footage of, you know, even the QC processes when they were shaving the wheels and doing this and doing that and then run through the entire process, because there is a lot that goes into it, man, that people don't realise. And then even the workforce requirements, like, it is genuinely, like, blows your mind the first time you see it, like they do, and the time frames they do it in, and yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. Scary.
I appreciate your time. I will give you some feedback when I, you know, like, because I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, shoot.
This 2 hours probably just cost you $4.5 grand.
That's okay. It's worth it. Hey, look, no, man, seriously, I said to you before when you reached out to the page, like, why I wanted to have a chat with you, and I genuinely hope next time, grill me, man. Like, I understand that people is going to wonder what the deal is.
I think, sorry, I think this is what some of the collectors want to know.
Yeah.
We'll get down to the hairdressers later.
Well, see, that's what I loved. That's what, and that's, man.
If you don't mind.
No,
Because I want to show who I was first.
definitely.
But I'm interested in all that too, because I think you get talked about a lot more than you talk about people.
Always.
And I'm just saying, like, you could easily start shit.
Stay out of the. You said it before. You don't like the politics. I don't like the politics. I want it to all go away. And, you know, the sad reality is it won't. And then the only way to maybe solve a little bit of that is to pick public fights with people to put them in their place. I don't want to do that, man. That's not what the brand's about. The brand's not about shitting on people. The whole brand was supposed to pull people together, not segregate.
I want to help you hopefully clear some of the air on some personal grievances that you might have or that have
sure.
flown your way to move forward to that bigger picture that we're talking about. I know that's like a step past some people's egos that might be able to get involved. I think you're prepared to be involved. I believe that personally, but I don't think we're ready for a big mass. We're all in this high-fiving each other.
Correct.
But,
No, we're not there.
I hope we get there.
But that's the goal.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely. That's why we've been trying to do what we're doing with the car shows.
Yeah.
We're trying to get like a smaller group to consistently come in so that then we can say, like, this is what we want to do for you. And we do ask at that show, what do you love when you walk around here? What are the best parts, apart from the models, because we know you've come here to see us, which we super appreciate. But what do you love from these shows? Because that's what, again, that's how you make those shows big, right? You listen to what the consumer wants and then you activate that, which that's what it's about, man.
All brands do it.
Yep.
Or should do it, you know. So, thank you for your input, Adrian. That's all right. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, it's good. I wasn't dying.
Time here, but no, I appreciate it.
No, no worries at all. Thanks, Matt. Ah.